Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is LAURAESPATH and I am really excited to hang out with you this evening. We're going to talk a little bit about the holidays, kind of navigating things. I know in Canada they just had Thanksgiving, but here in the US we have Thanksgiving coming up next month. Halloween is coming up, which is like a scary time and getting off track. And I feel like we are going to blink and it's going to be January 1st. And I can't tell you how many times this like middle of October is the time when I like previously would slip up. And then the next thing you know, I blink, I've gained 20 pounds and it's January 1st again. So we can talk about navigating the holidays, coming up with lots of tips and tricks for how to stay on track through Thanksgiving and Halloween. And as we move into the holidays, and also just obviously I'll answer any questions that you have. There's a lot of like interesting topics that are happening in the carnivore community right now. I'm not sure how much of it's just like headlines or if it's concerns that people have, but I'm happy to address it. I actually just now finished filming a YouTube video that's going to go live. I'll edit it tomorrow and that will go live in a few days. I've been a little behind the last couple of months. I was in Spain last week for my job and I got back and then spent the long weekend just hanging out with the family, recovering from my jet lag. So we did this YouTube video. Usually I do them near the end of the month, but I figured it'd be a good chance to check in earlier and just make sure that we were setting ourselves up for success for the end of the year. And then also next week, I'm filming a video that I normally don't do interviews, but I'm going to chat with somebody in person and I am so excited about it. It has nothing to do with carnivore, but it has everything to do with things that we all struggle with. So there's your like vague teasing. So I'm really excited to have that one for you guys. And that will be the last one at the end of October. Plus, actually, Chris and my husband and I's wedding anniversary is October 26th. And so I do this live stream kind of like the last week of the month, but we are going to go away for a few days together for our anniversary. So I'm excited to do that. And then this worked out better now. So yeah, hopefully we can check in. I think it's good timing as well. So let me know kind of like what's everybody eating dinner for. Hi, Kim. Good to see Kim and Beth and a few people from my locals group. Feel free to put any questions or topics in the chat that you want me to answer for this evening. I also took questions from my group earlier. I forgot, or I didn't forget, like I just didn't have time to like preload them. So I'm going to read them off of my phone. And we can do it. But yeah, I would love to know actually, like, what is everybody eating for Thanksgiving? Are you nervous about Thanksgiving? Valerie said October is the month that I usually slip up to, right? It was always like, I was always a sucker for the limited edition holiday food because I would get in this mindset of like, if I don't have it now, it's going to be gone and I have to have it or it's going to be gone until next time. So I was always like super obsessed with things and I would get in this like scarcity mindset. So that was a big deal for me, kind of like learning to make it through those first Thanksgivings or the first Halloween and break the cycle of that candy, which I think is a big challenge. And then I feel like if you can make it through Halloween, you can easily make it till Thanksgiving. And then if you can make it through Thanksgiving, Christmas should be a breeze. So like wins kind of help build motivation. I think this is one of the myths, I think, is that people are like, how do you stay motivated? Nobody stays motivated consistently all the time. Like nobody is waking up every day feeling motivated. It's about creating some really simple, realistic habits that then make you feel excited and help you build some wins and build some momentum. And then that momentum can really help to push you through some of those more difficult times. So that is a big part of it. Andy, this is a great question. What is your advice to get started on carnivore without making it too overwhelming? Yeah, that is one of the, like, the good thing is that carnivore is a lot more popular now than when I first started. And there is an infinite amount of information on the internet for free about the carnivore diet, which is great. The downside is there is an infinite amount of information for free available about the carnivore diet online. And that also can feel overwhelming because carnivore used to just mean like eating meat and nothing else. And now there is a whole spectrum of like, what is carnivore? There's a lot of different rules. There's a lot of different protocols, and, you know, the high fat and the low fat and the organs or no organs. And I think this is where it gets really confusing. The most important thing when you're first getting started is to simply build consistency and work on getting yourself off of the carbs and the sugar. And in that regard, it's like literally the most important thing is just to keep it simple. It's about eating the meat you can afford. It's about eating the meat that you like. It's about eliminating carbs and sugar. And I think eliminating vegetables for a while in order to understand how they affect you and how you feel with or without them. And I think finding a way to keep it really simple. And I think worrying about fasting windows and macros and specific ratios and types of meat. And I think that's where it can get really overwhelming. And I think the most important thing is to just build some consistency for a while by keeping it really simple with what works for you. And then over time, you can make some tweaks based on the results that you're getting. If you're not healing enough, you may have to get more strict. If you're not losing weight, you may have to adjust your meal timing or your fat and protein, that type of thing. But in the beginning, just building the consistency is going to be the most important thing for sure. Let's see, lots of familiar names in here. Beebs, good to see you. Good to see lots of familiar faces. Had a bunless burger for supper, probably ham for Thanksgiving. So yeah, this is where like, I think there's really two different approaches that you could have. Obviously, I mean, three really. There's kind of three different approaches you could have for, let's say, Thanksgiving, but obviously if you're watching from not the US, like just a holiday in general. Number one is to just eat all the old foods you used to eat all the traditional foods. I think there's a percentage of people who could eat all the old foods they used to eat that day, and then get back on track the next day. To be honest, they probably would feel terrible and bloated and gross, but like mentally they enjoy it. And then the next day they can get back on track again and have no issues. If you want to do that, I don't judge you. Do what you want to do. However, I think the percentage of people that can actually do that and be honest with themselves the next day and like actually get back on track again the next day and not eat the leftovers and then make another round of food. And then the next thing you know, it's like, well, it's almost Christmas and the church has a Christmas potluck and my work Christmas party. And then I'm doing a cookie baking thing. Like that's where like one day can turn into a month and a half like that. So that's where I think the problem is. It's not really about one day. The problem is most of us can't actually have one day and then reset again. But is one day really going to set you back? Probably not. So that's something to be aware of. So that's one option. The second option is to make keto or carnivore friendly replacements for all of the old traditional foods. Maybe you make a keto stuffing. Maybe you make a carnivore cheesecake or a dessert that doesn't have any sweeteners in it. You know, maybe you make some type of like keto bread or keto pumpkin pie, right? There's replacement foods and some people tolerate that well. Some people enjoy that. It helps them to stay on track. There's not a lot of sugar in it. It's like a special treat for the holidays, but it's not anything like really going to throw them off track. I feel like the same problem exists with that option as does with the first option of just eat the old stuff. And that is that a lot of those keto foods are still very triggering for people. They still might end up having you feel bloated, retaining water, gaining weight. And for a lot of people, they're going to trigger the sugar monster. Or, you know, for me, like I'm not going to eat an unsweetened carnivore cheesecake. Like while that's carnivore approved and fine, like I'm just going to sit there and say, this tastes terrible. Like it's going to do for me personally is make me crave the real thing. And so it's easier for me to not have that at all and to stick to meat than it is to have like a keto version or a carnivore version of those foods. Like they're not going to be the same. And if you're somebody that could still enjoy those things, I think that's a great option. But I think you have to be aware of like, are those foods still going to be triggering for you? Are they going to make you crave the real thing? Are they going to kind of in the same way have you feeling terrible and almost like carb hangover, sugar hangover to then throw you off track? Or, you know, is that going to be a helpful bridge for you? You know, Dr. Saivas calls them bridge foods. So are those a good bridge of like, hey, I didn't have the real thing. I had the keto version, I had the carnivore version, and like, go me, I'm super excited about that. Like that could be a good positive version for you. And then let me I'll talk about the I just realized what time it is. We'll talk about like the only carnivore version and we'll get into the next part. But before I do that, I forgot. I want to make sure to mention in the beginning of this video, our sponsor, which is Element. It's why I get to do videos like this. It's why I get to make content. And I am actually, so like you already know, I just got back from my trip. So I was restocking my travel packs. I pretty much travel with the unflavored version and the lemonade salt version pretty much exclusively now. Like the lemonade is really the only flavor I drink. Their formula and the lemonade version is different. They don't use the same type of like natural flavors that the other ones do. And so I like this one the best. And then the unflavored version has no sweeteners. These are just the convenient electrolyte packets. You can go to this QR code, and with any purchase of Element, you can get a free sample pack. And this gives you like 8 packets for free of their most popular flavors. It's like 4 flavors, 2 packets each of their most popular flavors. And they have 100% money back guarantee. You also could purchase their sparkling cans on their website, and they still will send you the free sample pack. But the sparkling cans are essentially the ones on their website are equivalent to 1 packet per can. However, look at these. I just bought these. These are our family's like new obsession. This is the newest sparkling cans, and that's the lemonade salt, pineapple salt, sparkling Element, and an orange. My son is obsessed with the pineapple. And these are smaller. This is equivalent to a half a packet. It is not as strong. It is a smaller container. This is a 12-ounce can when the other versions are a 16-ounce can, I think. And they're equivalent to a full packet. These are only available right now in retail stores. So I got mine in Target. I believe Walmart has them and some other retailers, but this has exactly, I know some people don't like the strength of like a whole packet at once. Like I just put 1 whole packet in my water and that's perfect for me. Some people like to do half a packet, but these are the perfect size of like sparkling cans if you're looking for like a fun treat. And these don't have the same natural flavors and flavor carriers in the sparklings that the packets do. So yes. So like if you're somebody who reacts to the artificial sweeteners in that way, maybe I'm wrong. And they have 100% money back guarantee. So try it. The lemonade does not do that to me because it's a different formula. And the sparkling cans don't do that. The other flavors sometimes give me like a little, like bother my stomach a little bit, which is why I typically used to always stick to the unflavored version. The lemonade is different formula, as well as the cans don't do that to me at all. So you could try it. And then, like I said, you can go back to that. And they do have the unflavored version. So I'll leave the QR code up throughout and just you guys can grab that as you want. Okay, let me go back to the other stuff. So thank you, Element. That's why we get to be here. I think, yeah. Okay, so the third, and then I'll go back and read some of these comments. So keep putting, Veebs, the cans are coming hopefully to other retail stores. I know you don't have Target in Canada, but I'm hoping that like other grocery stores are starting to carry them more. which is where you can get like the smaller cans. I don't know if you guys have Walmart up there too, but you should check out if you do have a Walmart, which would be good. Okay, so let's talk about the third option then is during these holidays. So the first one is just eat the normal food. Good luck with that if you can handle it. The second option is to make like keto or carnivore replacements of all of those things, which I think is a bigger percentage of people who enjoy that. It feels like a fun special holiday and then they get right back on track afterwards. Again, if you can handle that, like why not? Go for it. And then I think the third option, which is kind of the option that our family has stuck with most of the time, is to just change your total like traditions and change everything up and make everything carnivore related. I think it's really hard, and this depends on like my husband also eats carnivore. Typically Thanksgiving is just the four of us. We don't have this like really big family meal, so we can do something like totally non-traditional and nobody's really bothered by it because it's typically just the four of us. And Chris and I'll just make steaks and a side and maybe some other kind of meat. And then my kids will make a couple of sides on their own. But in the past, we actually went to like a fogo de chao for Thanksgiving for a few years, which was maybe my favorite tradition we had for a while. You make a reservation, you go to the Brazilian steakhouse, you don't have to cook, you don't have to clean. It's a little more expensive. However, the money that you would have spent on all of the groceries, you just spend going to a restaurant, and then there's no cleanup. It's like the easiest, best thing ever. And then a Brazilian steakhouse, you're getting like an insane amount of, that's like you're getting all you can eat beef and pork and chicken. And then also on Thanksgiving, they do roasted turkey as well. So that was a really fun option for us. I think if I was going to a large family Thanksgiving with standard eaters, normal people, carnivore people, keto people, like turkey, and they were going to have turkey, mashed potato, stuffing, pies, and all the normal things, and I was trying to stay carnivore, I would do my best to make sure that I had two main meat options, right? Whether that's meatballs, you could make your own meatballs that are really healthy. Obviously, maybe there's going to be turkey, so turkey and ham, or turkey and prime rib, or roast beef, and then you can kind of like, it would be easy to bring some sides that are really kind of group appropriate, like deviled eggs, a charcuterie board, bringing those meatballs, because if somebody else provides meatballs, they might have like sugar sauce in them or breadcrumbs in them. So if you're making them, they'll be okay. And, maybe I saw somebody else say they do like a cauliflower mash. Like that would be obviously something that would work with keto. If you're somebody like this, where fake swaps make you crave real stuff and you want to stick to just carnivore, I would really think about, like, for me, the whole point of Thanksgiving is you eat a lot of different stuff at the same time. So having just like a steak on my plate our family loves that. But if you're in a big group of people, like they may have more of a hard time of you doing that. So trying to find a way to have like a lot of little different things, like I said, like a deviled egg and some meat and cheese and a, piece of turkey and a piece of roast beef and a few meatballs. And the next thing you know, you have this like really stuffed plate, and nobody else may notice that there's not actually a roll sitting on it or the other side dishes that are sitting on it. And you're eating like a lot of different food, and you're still getting this same like nostalgic feeling of Thanksgiving, but you're not going to feel terrible and bloated and constipated and like hungover and sleepy all afternoon from all the carbs and the sugar. So those are kind of like, I'm curious which one of those options you personally would tend to navigate, and how you really expect your holidays to go, or like Thanksgiving specifically, if you're in the US, but, or if you are in Canada. I know I see a few of our friends from Canada in the chat. So, if you are from Canada, like what were some things that you did on Thanksgiving and how would you have navigated that? Charlie said, this is my second holiday season carnivore. I plan on making carnivore treats like cinnamon rolls, oopsie cakes, lots of heavy cream in my coffee, and sticking to my plan. Yeah. A fun thing for us to do on Thanksgiving, we tend to have so I'll tell you, we did the fogo de chao. For Christmas for us is always steak and crab legs or steak and lobster tails. It's like surf and turf. Everybody gets their own little butter dish. You know, we do like fried cheese. The kids have some type of side that they do as well. But so like that's our like family's Christmas tradition. It was kind of weird at first, like the first couple of years, but now I look forward to that every single year. We just really love Chris. Actually, I think last year, like I did lobster tails. He did a big piece of sea bass. And so we do like fun. It feels fancy. It feels special. And we do like surf and turf for Christmas. Thanksgiving, we've kind of changed our traditions a lot over the years. For the first few years, we did fogo de chao. And like I said, that was just kind of the perfect thing. That was through like 2018, 2019, 2020. I think we still did that, 2021. And then honestly, it just got too busy. Our location is so busy and it's just chaos. And we decided after a few years to just like stay home. So we did steaks, or we did a prime rib for a couple of years. And then actually the last few years, we've turned Thanksgiving into just like an appetizer day. And I've started making buffalo chicken dip. We make meatballs. We do meat and cheese trays. We do like just meat and cheese roll-ups of some kind. We've basically turned into all of the different like carnivore appetizer finger foods that you can imagine. And we started doing that on Thanksgiving. And so like that's almost been our new tradition. Like I said, it's just kind of the four of us, so we don't typically do, and I make turkey for content. Like I work with Meter, the meat thermometer company. And I always like end up partnering with like turkey companies. I have like a turkey, and they want those turkeys always roasted and like cooked and for content purposes, like, end of October, early November. So by Thanksgiving, we're pretty turkeyed out, but doing some type of turkey is not a bad idea if you're a normal person on Thanksgiving. So yeah, I'm going to try to catch up here. Is carnivore bad breath a real thing? Just detoxing from carbs and sugar, it really affects your gut. And I think your gut can take some time to adjust. So I think it's usually, I don't hear anybody talking about carnivore bad breath, but I hear people saying keto breath a lot. And a lot of times that's just like your body, like detoxing from the carbs and your gut adjusting. But typically when you go carnivore, like that flips over a lot quicker. And I'm curious, like, yeah, Kim said, it's just a transition. Like it gets better. Like once you're like truly in the zone. So yeah. This is a good question. When you first started with the weight loss journey doing low carb keto, what made you to switch to carnivore? I'm struggling to stay consistent with keto. So I'm debating, or carnivore. So I'm debating doing keto instead. I think it can be different for a lot of people. Like, I don't think necessarily, like, this is where I think I disagree with a lot of the carnivore community, is that I don't think everybody has to be carnivore. Like, I think carnivore is reserved for this very specific set of people who are triggered by most carbs and sugars and sweeteners of any kind. We have gut issues with the, vegetables, and we just feel better eating only meat. I think there's a lot of benefit. I think everybody can benefit from going carnivore for a while to understand like how foods affect you. But if you only can tolerate meat long term, like you have some other problem going on, which is a whole side note. But I just got like the most insane blood work results back that makes like my whole life make sense about why I can only tolerate being carnivore, which is maybe a topic for another conversation. But I switched to carnivore kind of by accident. We started keto just because it was 2018 and everybody was doing keto at the time. And then Chris had heard about carnivore and he started it. I was like, thought this was stupid and you're going to die from not eating vegetables. Like, of course you need vegetables. But he was a stay-at-home dad and I was working full time. And so Chris was doing all of our cooking at the house. And which is still, it's been 7 years. That's still the way our life is, right? He's home and I'm working. So he cooks for us all the time. And so just based on the meals that he cooked, he happened to be making carnivore meals for the week. And so it had been like a week and I hadn't even had any vegetables. All of a sudden it was like a Friday at the end of the week and I had like a big taco salad, which was like meat and cheese and sour cream. And the only thing in it that wasn't carnivore was the lettuce. And I have always had issues with hemorrhoids and bloating and constipation and like tons of digestive issues. And I ate that big taco salad, and within like an hour, my gut was completely wrecked. I was bloated. And all of a sudden I realized, like, wait, I haven't been constipated all week. Wait, my hemorrhoids have started to go away. Like, holy cow, I didn't realize that just not. And then it wasn't until I had this reaction from the lettuce that I realized that those vegetables were causing me some of those issues. And so me switching to carnivore was, a lot of it was just gut related. I ended up then being able to like lose more weight because I cut out the low carb tortillas. I cut out the macadamia nuts. I cut out, like, I was so triggered by, like, I would buy one of those big bags of macadamia nuts from Costco because they're keto friendly. Like, these are giant bags of macadamia nuts that you could get at Costco. And a quarter cup of them is keto friendly. I would eat the whole bag in like 2 or 3 days, right? And that's going to cause you some digestive issues, but that was triggering for me. I remember eating like an entire jar of like natural peanut butter and Lily's chocolate bars. This was back when like Lily's chocolate had just come on the market. I remember eating like a full bar of chocolate and an entire jar of peanut butter in one sitting, but it was keto, right? I just knew I couldn't tolerate those things. They were too triggering for me from like a sweets perspective. And then anything that has to do with like vegetables was wrecking my gut and causing me a lot of issues. And so you honestly got to have a reason. Like, there has to be a reason that you need to go carnivore, or you're never going to be able to convince yourself to do it. That being said, like, I'm pretty good at sticking to something temporarily. So even after I kind of realized I should be carnivore, I never told myself like, okay, this is now what you have to do forever. It was a lot of telling myself like, you could do carnivore for a week. You could do carnivore for a month. So like, this is my question for you, Jordan, is like, can you do carnivore for a week? That's it. 1 week. Today's Friday. Can you do carnivore for 1 week and see how you feel? And then a week from now, you can decide about 1 more week. And then maybe it's like, okay, I've made it 2 weeks. Like, let's see if I can go a full month. And so rather than just trying to like switch over to carnivore, it's not going to kill you not eat a salad for a week. You can have a keto treat a week from, like, just keep telling yourself 1 week. And then a week from now, you can figure out like, do you feel any different? Is this helpful? Am I losing weight? Do I feel better? Do I notice any differences? And then hopefully convince yourself to do 1 more week at a time. And then I would say, like, if you're struggling to say carnivore, why is that? Is it you're craving vegetables and those vegetables don't negatively affect you? Okay, then eat a vegetable. Like, who cares? It's not that, the rules are not that crazy. Okay. But are you going back to keto because keto has keto treats? And are you overeating them? And are you tolerating those things fine? Are you not getting the results that you want on keto? Like, why are you trying to switch from keto to carnivore? And then also, like, why are you struggling to stick to carnivore? Like, those are some things that I would take some time to reflect on. And then if you are serious about doing carnivore, I would just try to, like, again, honestly, it's Friday night. Can you stay carnivore till Monday morning? Like, can you stay carnivore Saturday and Sunday? Like, even if a week feels too long, give yourself like a couple of days and see if you can just do like a couple of days at a time. I'm flying across the country in a couple of weeks. What carnivore foods can I put in my carry-on checked bag? I already have carnivore bars. I just got a big order of carnivore snacks in yesterday. I like those a lot. Meat sticks. I travel with bacon. I travel on a plane with steaks. If you're in the US, like domestically, you can travel with ice packs. I bring a lot of cheese with me when I travel. You can travel with butter as long as it's frozen. This is like a very weird thing, right? Frozen butter can get through TSA. Thawed butter cannot, because it's considered spreadable. It's considered a liquid. If it's thawed, it makes no sense. You know, honestly, some of that stuff you might be able just to get, like, typically what I do is I land at wherever I'm traveling. And then if I have a vehicle, I'll go to the grocery store. And if not, I'll just do like a DoorDash order, which I hate paying all the fees and prices for DoorDash or Instacart or something, but it's the perfect thing to like have food delivered to my hotel. And I usually get like cheese and some deli meat and stuff. I tend to make my own homemade jerky a lot. But when I go to like on an international trip, or I go to conferences like that where the food is not in my control, I like to plan on one meal a day that I provide myself. So at least I know I have like one solid meal. And then typically at conferences, I can find something for breakfast in terms of like eggs or bacon or sausage. And then if I don't get anything else for the day, like I know I've provided myself one meal. So I would look into like carnivore bars, a great option if you like those. I love carnivore snacks, which is just like the dried meat. You can, you know, I mean, please don't eat hard-boiled eggs on an airplane. Don't be that person. But you could travel with hard-boiled eggs and an ice pack and some cheese and some bacon. Like bacon also can be room temperature for like a day. It's going to be fine. So I tend to make a couple of pounds of bacon, put it in a Ziploc bag, and I just throw it in my suitcase. And then when I get where I'm going, I put it in the fridge. And then I like make my own stuff. I have electrolytes that I bring with me. And then you can find some like really decent options for meat sticks and jerky. Just watch out for the sugar content on all of those. And then, you know, depending on costs, like you can, you know, make your own versions of jerky or something like that. Ooh, brisket. Yeah. Well, who wouldn't you rather have brisket at Thanksgiving than a turkey? Who wouldn't rather have brisket? If you're going to a family, huge group of people for Thanksgiving and they're going to have turkey and all the trimmings, and if you suggest you bring a brisket and some deviled eggs, I guarantee you, you'll be the favorite person at the party. I'll tell you that. Okay, I'm down 18 pounds in 2 months, which is, that does not seem slow. It seems like I'm losing really slow. No, I don't have any advice. That's very fantastic. That's 18 pounds in 2 months. Imagine if you kept up that pace for a year. That's insane. This is where I feel like we get very impatient. And do I have any advice? You could make some tweaks. This is where, I don't know, you could evaluate, you know, my always dilemma is like, are you eating too much? Are you eating too little? Should we add fasting, or are you under eating? Don't add fasting if you're under eating, that type of thing. So can you tweak your fat to protein ratio? I think these are things that if you started tracking, you might be able to make some adjustments. It depends. If you have 200 pounds to lose, okay, maybe 18 pounds in 2 months is a little bit. If you have 50 pounds to lose, 18 pounds in 2 months is absolutely fantastic. Like that's insane. So, you know, there's a lot of context that's needed. Typically though, if somebody feels like their weight loss is, so like, I want to reset the expectation of like, I contribute to this problem sometimes. You see this before and after picture, and I say, I lost 100 pounds, you know, 120 pounds in a year. Like that is very unrealistic for normal circumstances. And to be honest, I didn't do it. Like if I had it to redo, I would have done it differently to not lose weight that fast, to not be that extreme. So, yeah, like that's almost 10 pounds per month. Like that's amazing. First of all, we have to remember that we didn't like gain all of our weight overnight. So we have to kind of like reset how we lose it. The answer is like, if you want to lose weight faster, you can be more extreme in some way. However, I just never suggest that for people, because like, if you're not, this is what I've learned through my own mistakes. Okay. If you're not losing the weight in a way that is sustainable for you to live this way long term, you won't keep it off. Like I could give you advice that would make you lose 30 pounds in the next month, but likely it would be in such an extreme way that you couldn't stick to it. And the minute you went back to something that was more sustainable, you likely would gain that weight back again. And so wouldn't you rather be losing it in a way that's like, you enjoy the food, you enjoy your life, you can go out to eat with friends and stay on track, you can kind of just like live your normal life and not have everything be centered around food and exercise and all that kind of stuff. My biggest tip though is like, okay, maybe it's time to track something. You can kind of pay attention and not even with a specific goal, but just to try to understand, like, are you overeating? Are you undereating? Or is there something else going on? My guess is though, 18 pounds in 2 months, things are going to slow down after a while. Like I lost 120 pounds and the first 30 pounds comes off like this, right? And then things slow down and slow down. So the longer you're doing this, like you've lost 18 pounds in 2 months, you might lose 3 pounds next month. You might lose 2 pounds a month after that. Like things are depending on how much weight you have to lose and how extreme you're being. Things might slow down even more. And I don't want you to get discouraged about that, because to be honest, it's probably more realistic. Like you can lose 30 pounds in a month, but if you gain back 20 the months after that, then what is it worth, right? Or you gain back 40, God forbid, because you like completely fall off the wagon because you're just so burned out from like being so extreme. That was my problem for a long time. Imagine though, if you kept up this pace, where you'd be in a year. And a year is not that long. Like a year feels like a really long time when we sit here today, but like y'all, it is almost Thanksgiving. It is almost November. Like wasn't it just January? Like this year has flown by. So I promise, like my guess is probably what you need the most of is just some patience. But you know, maybe this is a good time to make a couple of tweaks. However, I always just like really discourage people from going to some like extreme protocol or extreme routine or extreme something. Like my guess is like a little small tweak is probably all that you need to like boost up your weight loss and get things going again. Veeb said, I made a big pot of turkey and chicken meatballs simmered in chicken broth. It smells amazing in my house. That sounds amazing. Jen said, do you have all the place where your recipes are located? Not really, unfortunately. I mean, on this channel, there is a playlist that is for recipes. So that's one place. The other place is Judy Cho wrote a book called The Beginner's Guide to Carnivore. And in the back of that book are some of my more popular recipes as like guides for beginners. So that's a place. All of those recipes, though, are like somewhere on this channel. The other thing, though, is unfortunately, like, I do these videos a lot, which I think people like, but also it's very difficult to find recipes because I'll do like what I eat in 7 days or what I eat in 5 days. Or back, you know, several years ago when I first started making YouTube videos, I used to do like what I eat in a month, and you'd have 2 weeks of meals in one video. And then the part 2 is 2 weeks of meals. So you have 30 days of meals in 2 videos. And so if you're looking for like rapid fire videos, like, or recipe ideas, like those are great old videos to watch. But unfortunately, like some of those recipes are kind of buried inside of those videos, different places. That's actually one thing Chris and I have been trying to do more in recent years, is like going back and watching some of those videos. And listen, back then, a lot of times too, I was just eating steak. You know, when you look back at those videos from 2019 or 20, like I was eating steak every day and that's pretty much it. So it's only been in the later years when I've had like recipes. We're trying to take some of those recipes that are buried in those videos and turning them into like single recipe videos, mainly so they're easier to find. So check out the recipe playlist though on this channel is probably the best place to start. And then after that, if you're still looking for more ideas, you could go back and watch like the what I eat videos. And there's typically like, if there's like 5 days of what I eat, several of those days is like a grilled steak and eggs and something simple. But typically I tried to always include like one new recipe in those videos where I walk you step by step through how I made it. So I tried to, you know, mix those up a little bit. Okay. Yeah, there's a whole proper human diet spectrum that Dr. Berry talks about, anywhere from low carb to carnivore. I think most people can handle that kind of stuff. I think, to be honest, I think, you know, there's 2 reasons why somebody would want to be carnivore long term. The first reason is food addiction. because we're triggered by carbs and sugar, and we can't moderate a handful of berries. We can't moderate a piece of dark chocolate. We can't moderate, keto treats of some kind. Like, there's a lot of us that fall into that category. And carnivore makes things simple because a lot of those triggering foods just don't exist. And they're kind of like, for me, there's, I spent a long time like enjoying the freedom that came with the restriction and the simplicity of a carnivore diet. And I think that is one acceptable reason why somebody would stay carnivore long term, is because they're addicted to the foods that are not carnivore. And just like an alcoholic can't have one beer with their meal occasionally, there's a lot of people out there that can't have one cookie occasionally, or a keto cookie even, or they can't have some berries occasionally, because those things are going to be as triggering to a food addict as alcohol is to an alcoholic. And if that's you, you understand exactly what I'm saying. And if that's not you, you think that's crazy. Or if that is you, you probably have family members that think that that's crazy, and they don't understand why you can't just have one bite of dessert, or why you can't have like everything in moderation. Okay. So I think that's why a lot of people stay carnivore long term. I also think those people tend to struggle with carnivore because they're constantly being pulled in the direction of the addictive foods, and they're constantly being told by the world that everything is allowed in moderation. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of social pressure when it comes to food. There's just a lot of gluttony, and food is a very socially acceptable sin, essentially. And so I think that's why if you're on carnivore and you're really struggling sticking to it, it's probably that there's deeper work that has to be done in terms of our relationship with food, right? So that's a longer explanation of like, that's reason number one why somebody might stay carnivore long term. Reason number two, and that person, right? Reason number one, they probably might stay. You may not ever wake up and just be totally healed from that. You might. Some people talk about that. They talk about being carnivore for many years and they wake up and they're healed. But there's other people who are just never going to wake up from that, and they almost need to, this community online calls it being like sober. These are food sober. And so they can be that with sticking to carnivore. There's also another reason why somebody might be carnivore long term is because their body physically cannot tolerate other foods. This is the Michaela Peterson example. She can't tolerate anything else that's not meat because she has, a lot of physical ailments. There's a lot of people that have CIRS, which is the chronic inflammatory response syndrome. Your body can't detox things well, and you're genetically predisposed to not being able to eliminate toxins from your body. There are people that have a lot of genetic or, other types of physical reasons why they need to be carnivore. And if that's the case, that's not the goal. The goal shouldn't be that your body can only tolerate meat. Now, nutritionally, in both of these scenarios, you're getting all of the nutrition that you need in order to be healthy from eating only meat, right? You're not missing any nutrition by not eating vegetables, right? Your body is getting everything you need. You can be perfectly healthy. But it's actually not normal for your body to not be able to physically tolerate anything else besides meat. Now, nobody needs processed junk and food and cereals, and we're not trying to tolerate oatmeals and that kind of stuff. But what we're saying is that your body shouldn't be having these wild physical negative reactions if you're eating something that's not meat. And if that's the case, it's okay to look for some type of healing. The goal would be to heal yourself, right? So that you can tolerate other foods and other things. And in that case, those are the people that if they work with a doctor, sometimes they go see a CIRS doctor, they do a detox protocol, they heal the root cause of what's going on with them, then they often are able to tolerate other things. And I'm not trying to comment on this whole topic and then community right now of like everybody's quitting carnivore. because to be honest, I haven't watched any of those videos. I've just seen the title of videos out everywhere. But I think that like, just because someone was carnivore for a while and then isn't anymore doesn't mean that carnivore doesn't work. It just means that maybe they don't have to be carnivore anymore. Like they could have healed themselves enough to be able to add in some vegetables and to be able to add in some different types of carbs. And if you're not somebody who's in the first category of being physically triggered by those things in terms of an addiction, then it's probably like, I don't want to eat a sweet potato occasionally, but like if you can tolerate it and you want to, and it's not like, that's going to be not something that I want or enjoy, or it's going to be triggering for me. But if somebody adds in like a sweet potato or something occasionally, like it doesn't mean that carnivore was a problem. It just means now their body is able to tolerate other things. And some people just like eating other things. So I kind of think that it depends on like, why were we carnivore in the first place? Yeah, let me see here. Like if I ate processed white bread, my digestion gets backed up. Yeah. And in reality, like that's a toxic food that like probably no matter how healed you are, like nobody really should be eating, which means something is wrong with what I'm eating instead of it being a good thing. Totally. But there also should be other things like, you know, Michaela Peterson has talked about the fact that she would have these like massive health spiral issues from lettuce, or from if she ate an onion or a sweet potato or something else like that. Like, you know, you shouldn't be having this major thing. And if there's probably something else going on, if you're having a lot of physical issues from those other types of food. So I think this is where we get a little lost in this, where I don't think the goal is to be a perfect carnivore long-term, but I also don't think the goal has to be to eventually add back in carbs. Like, I think either one is okay. And it's obviously going to depend on your circumstances and the reasons why you're doing it in the first place. So yeah, this is a big part of it. Like carnivore for a lot of people feel the same way as you do, right? Of no food noise and never going back. And listen, I'll say this is where the rise of the GLP-1 medications, right? The whole concept behind that is that it eliminates the food noise. And in theory, that's what carnivore can do without the medication, the way that it stabilizes your insulin and your blood sugar. And it should, in theory, create like you should be satiated and you should feel satisfied all the time. So in theory, carnivore does, for like somebody like Charlie, right? Like carnivore does what those GLP-1 medications can do. And actually like that ends up being a problem for a lot of people on carnivore, is that they end up under eating because they're just not hungry. And, you know, that can be a problem for some people on carnivore. So that's just something to think about. If that's something that you were considering, why not try going strict carnivore for a while and see if that can do the same thing for you. Your bacon cheeseburger meatballs are a lifesaver. I love having them on hand. I even meal prepped a bunch last weekend for my son to have his apartment. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I make them weekly. My kids eat them all the time. My mom makes them weekly. She eats them all the time. She's going to visit my 94-year-old grandparents, and she's going to make them a big batch of those meatballs. My grandpa cooks them, like they still live on their own. And my grandpa cooks them for them in the air fryer for dinner. So like those, no, and they're not carnivore or anything like that, but like, you know, they're just a super easy, delicious, easy way to have some like clean protein on hand. Carbs are a huge addiction. Yeah, I totally agree with that for sure. Okay, I'm finding some stuff. Crispy chicken thighs. Yeah, I need to come up with some other, like this is where we don't do a lot, like we tend to just grill a lot of our food. So, you know, I don't tend to have like a ton of recipes, but the ones that I do have, we make on repeat in this house. I'll tell you that for sure. Yeah, I have a connective tissue disorder and it really helps. So that's an example of why you might stick with carnivore more long-term, is because there's a different root cause that's going and something else that you're using it to address. So that, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And this is somebody, you probably don't tolerate a lot of seasonings really well, and potentially even like dairy. I'd be curious if you can handle dairy and things like that. Yeah, really, like carnivore is very healing. It's tremendously healing for any type of inflammatory situation, right? If you have skin conditions, if you have autoimmune conditions, if you have inflammation of any kind, arthritis, joint issues, like connective tissue disorders, like anything in your body that's caused by inflammation, carnivore is extremely powerful at reducing inflammation and healing in that way. There are things that like carnivore can't fix, but carnivore can be a tool in helping you to get to a baseline of what is you're being reacted to from food. And then there are some people who would need to go down the route of like I said, the chronic inflammatory response syndrome. So CIRS, and then tied to that is a lot of Lyme and Epstein-Barr and like other types of viruses that typically people who have those things feel better on carnivore right away, but they may not heal long term unless they were to and for some people, you know, carnivore can give them a good baseline of feeling better, but then oftentimes they have to go to something else. So this was connective tissue disorder, been on the Lion diet for 14 months. So your perfect example that I was saying, Lion diet is beef or ruminant animals only. So beef, lamb, bison, that type of thing. Salt and water only. So no seasonings. Typically, this is somebody who has like something very serious, right? Also has PCOS, and is looking for a lot of healing and eliminating anything else that could be reactionary, like even like pork and chicken. And again, this is not the goal. The Lion diet is an amazingly healing tool for you, but the goal would be to help with like ideally to heal that long term, and some of those things really can't be done. So yeah, dealing with autoimmune and inflammation issues, that can be helpful. So boredom does creep in, but no more than for a carb eater too. Eating out can be challenging, but also helps experiment. Yes, I try to talk a lot about like different options for eating out, and give people some ideas. That's actually, I filmed a video right before I went live about that, and it's going to come out in a couple of days as soon as I get it edited. So hopefully that will give you some more ideas. I do have a lot of videos on this channel. Like I get a ton of pushback every time I eat out because they're like, that's not good enough. It's not clean enough. It's not perfect enough. Well, guess what? I'm like this other person here who mentioned like going to a conference. I just got back from Spain, which Spain is actually an amazingly carnivore friendly country. It's obviously, you guys know, I go there often for work, and our family spent 3 months there last year. So extremely carnivore friendly. I'm very familiar with getting around there, but you also have a lot of international flights to deal with. I go to a lot of conferences for my job where I'm not in control of my meals. So eating out is a challenge, but I will say, I feel like I've mastered how to stay carnivore in most scenarios. So hopefully, I do have a lot of videos on this channel about grabbing fast food burger patties, getting random food from a grocery store. My last video was like how to stay carnivore if your only option is to eat at a gas station. I got a lot of pushback on that one, which I knew I would have. But do you know the number of people who message me regularly that are like truck drivers, and they're like, this was a light, like, yes, of course you could bring your own food and you should plan ahead or you should fast, but like you're going to tell a truck driver they literally can never get a meal at a gas station if they want to be perfect? No, that's not realistic. That's what I'm talking about. We can't live in this world of such extremes and the need for perfection that we end up making it not realistic for us to stick to. And I guarantee you that that person whose only option is to eat at a gas station every once in a while is going to either find a way to be carnivore enough, or they're going to just give up and go back to doing what they were doing before, which obviously wasn't working. So if you're somebody who is like our M friend up here about like having connective tissue disorders and like, listen, that you're on a strict lion diet because of like very severe healing and autoimmune issues. Like you might not be able to eat at the gas station because maybe those aren't clean enough. But the average person who doesn't have those extreme health issues can be good enough. Like that's a great option for them as well. So, yeah, you're just great from a majority eaters with children. Yes, exactly. So lots of that kind of stuff. Did you make a video of some of the food you had in Spain? Not this specific trip. However, when we were there, when we were living there for 3 months last year, the kids and my husband and I made, like, we went to Costco in Spain. I made a video of like several different restaurants. I did like a grocery haul of some of the meat that we found. So if you go back to my channel from about a year and a half ago, it was 2024. And then we were there for April, May, and June of 2024. You can find a bunch of videos around that as well. And then I have like some of my favorite restaurants, especially on Instagram too. You can find like a bunch of my old favorite restaurants. Okay, I got like a couple of minutes left. What else was I going to say? Oh, as far as the boredom goes, you know, you can kind of give yourself as much variety as you like. Even when I was eating carbs, like, even though people think that you can't have variety on carnivore, but like you mentioned, like typically when people are eating carbs, they're eating the same 3 or 4 meals every week anyway. Like people eat the same few things. Like there's probably only a handful of things that like carb eaters are actually eating too. One thing that is helpful for us in terms of boredom or variety is having 2 meats on your plate at the same time. You know, there was a couple of weeks ago where I had the exact same piece of, it was like a little piece of top sirloin cap. I had that every single day. But as a side to that meat, I had something different. One day I had shrimp with it. One day I had a piece of chicken with it. One day I had a piece of pork belly with it. One day I had meatballs with it. So like I ate the same steak every day for 4 days in a row, but I had a different side with it that was a different piece of meat. And it felt like an entirely new meal every day. So like just mixing up what you're having with something else can end up being like, can add a lot of variety as well. Any skin removal issues you or Chris have had several months, years post-op? No, I put this on. I was a little cold, so I put my shirt on, but I was like going to show you guys my arms. Like, I feel like my scars are still kind of red. Obviously they go down around across. I had my back done as well. The parts down here are a little like, I'm still, definitely not even a year, like just over 6 months post-op. So some of the sections are getting lighter. Some of them are still more red. I feel like down through my armpit, like it's almost invisible down here. I try to go to the red light therapy bed most days when I'm not traveling. And yeah, I think honestly, like, I feel like about a year after surgery is when you kind of see the scars start to like really start fading. But I kind of don't care. You know, I've been wearing short sleeves and sleeveless and like just enjoying it a lot more. Chris is totally fine and normal. My stomach has been totally fine and normal. Yeah, it's obviously not feasible for everybody, but it's the best thing that I've ever done. And now it's hard to like not start nitpicking other things, but that's a whole other conversation, and body dysmorphia and all the things. So anyway, all right, I think let me take a quick scan. I think that's most of what I have time for tonight. You know, I kind of feel like it comes up in every video, and I started to touch on it there at the end, but just as you're figuring out how to be carnivore and how to live your life, and as we navigate the holidays, my biggest advice always is don't let perfect be the enemy of the good, and just, you know, take it one decision at a time. Don't worry about what other people think. And if people are having a hard time with you not eating carbs, that's more of a reflection on them and their own insecurities than it is on you. You have to make a decision that's going to be best for you and your health. I didn't really get into, I feel like we like really talked. I feel like I didn't mention a lot of other stuff this time, but if you want help navigating through the holidays, if you come join my locals community, there are people in there. They post every day for accountability. We give each other lots of tips and tricks. I do live streams like this in there a lot more often. I try to do them once a week if I'm not, you know, traveling internationally. We're going to do one again on Monday. You can come in and hang out and, you know, we can help you tweak some things or make adjustments, and hopefully just have you feeling like you're not alone as you're navigating this pretty difficult time of year. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.